the first time in our history of a nation, the living standard of the citizens is going backwards. That's probably our biggest loss, right? And it'll only get more momentum if we don't change the trajectory.
All right, well, pretty much then to summarize the federal budget, and from what I'm hearing from you, Stephen, from these points, is that we've got governments are losing money because they're spending more than they're earning. You've got people losing out because inflation's continuing to go up, cost of living is, wages are going up, power you're expecting to increase double, you said, and then but the budget announced by about 50% over the next few months or year. Unemployment now up to 4.5%. Housing shortages are continuing to grow. And of course, more unproductive spending to unproductive people and all that, just free handouts. So that's basically what's been shown. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but those were the main parts that we highlighted through this. Governments are going to increase taxes through stealth as well. So basically, with all of that put together, how would you summarize that, Steve, of what this is indicating for the future of the everyday Australian, and for people listening, what does it mean to them?
So if I break it down to a number of points: less money in your pocket, more power to politicians, the union movement, the Karens, the Greens, the minorities that are just going to take. For the first time ever, and it's actually stipulated in the budget papers right down the back, that this budget will lower the living standard of Australians for the first time. Right? So the first time in our history of a nation, the living standard of the citizens is going backwards. That's probably our biggest loss, right? And it'll only get more momentum if we don't change the trajectory. Greater taxation, as I said, it mightn't be direct, but it'll definitely be indirect taxation. Now, don't forget that inflation is not necessarily a monetary thing either. It can actually be the eroding of what you actually get for your purchasing. So when you actually look at, say, what's the biggest one, easiest one to use is McDonald's. So in the 60s, a hamburger was this big. All right, I'm exaggerating, but let's go with me here. In the 60s, a hamburger was this big. 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, it's that big. But the price pretty much is the same, comparatively across the inflation. How have they worked out? It's pretty much the same, but what you're buying is actually smaller. All right. You're physically getting less for your money. The other thing is chips. In the foil packets. Right, started off with 80 grams, 75 grams, 70 grams, 60 grams, 50 grams, but the money treat that you're paying for it's going up. Was 20 cents, 50 cents, 70 cents, $1, $1.20, $3 now, $5, whatever it is. But what you're getting for that is a lot less. That is the biggest erosion of your money, right? And that erosion is greater than any taxation, any physical inflation, anything else, because 9 times out of 10 you don't notice it, because it's done gradually over a long period of time. And that is a greater tax than the physical tax. So that then leads to reduction in manufacturing. With the way that our power, energy prices are going, as I said, manufacturers are going to have to make a decision on what they do, how they do it. Yes, we can have manufacturing in this country, but it's not going to increase a lot of jobs. So you lose again, right? because the job that you thought you might have had is not going to be there any longer. This budget destroys our power grid. I really believe that we're in for a massive shock, the reduction of the power grid. I think it's Victoria's also brought in a stupid thing about banning all petrol cars by 2035 or something, and I know New South Wales is on basically the same track. That's really going to work out well. Bans never work. So on the back of that, we're going to have food shortages because our manufacturers, most of our food is processed at some point. Even what we call fresh food is processed. It goes through a processing plant. It gets washed, it gets cleaned, it gets packed, it gets weighed, frozen, whatever it is. So the processing power is going to be reduced. We're seeing it now with oranges not getting picked, with fresh fruit and vegetables not getting picked because we don't have the manpower. So that's going to be a problem. And then all that leads to more job losses. So we have more job losses, we have greater inflation, we have greater everything else. It just becomes a very big spiral. And I truly believe the only way out is we've got to totally reduce the amount and size and thinking of government. Governments have got to look at things as a business, not as a charitable institution, which is how it's been looked at now. So that's what it means.
Well, yeah, that's a lot to look forward to, I suppose. So, and it does show you the importance of being self-sufficient, then adding to what you just said about the way out. I mean, that's what I took away from what I heard from you, is just if governments can't solve the problem, well, you've got to find a solution. That's got to come from you. So part of that is just being sovereign, as we say, and taking self-responsibility to be sufficient. That's why I myself, I'm looking forward to your training on that, and I'm sure we'll do more stuff around that, as I'm sure everyone else is. But yeah, there's a lot to start planning for, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very interesting ride going forward. And out of that, there's opportunity. Yeah, if you're looking in the right places and you're open-minded and all that sort of stuff, there is opportunity out there. Opportunity to take stock on where you are in life. Opportunity to restructure your life. Opportunity to build businesses. There is still going to be businesses needed. That's why I'm a big believer of, if your business is essential, do it better, make it efficient, and you'll always have customers. Solve a problem. Businesses need to solve a problem. So people say to me, "Oh, but aviation solve a problem." Well, actually, we solve in our aviation business. We solve 20, 30 problems. Interconnectivity of regional communities, delivery of food, delivery of medicine, emergency evacuation, repairing of broken aircraft that otherwise take out of the market, the training of the next generation. So everything we do in a lot of our businesses solve a problem. The tiny home business that I'm involved in, we solve a problem by housing. We solve a problem by having short-term accommodation for people that want experiential stays. We're looking at creating our own unique utility system. This utility system will be able to power not just our tiny homes, but in the future we want it so it will power people's homes in rural communities, in off-grid situations. And basically what it is, and I'll give you a snapshot of what it is, it's a trailer that is delivered to your home that creates electricity, stores electricity, cleans water, because some of the problems that a lot of rural people have is, fair enough, you got tank water, but you might have moss and stuff and shit growing in your tank water. So this, or bore water, goes into a tank. It's filtered, it's UV'd and run around the system, and then goes put into your house. We're also looking at a wastewater treatment system that can come on a trailer and be delivered to your property. So you can disconnect from the town sewer and all that sort of stuff. And then it creates worms, but it creates water that can be used in gardens, or watering lawns and all that sort of stuff. So if you have a business, make sure you're solving a problem. And that is pretty much, it's great. Manufacturing, and then I also like to get vertically and horizontally integrated. So I like to control the supply chain a lot with a lot of my businesses. One, because I want to spend my money in my own businesses, but two, I want to make sure that, if I'm going to build a tiny home, I'm going to build the trailers, I'm going to build all the systems and furniture and everything goes with it. So I need a carpentry shop, I need a metalworking shop and other bits and pieces. I can control the quality, I can control the speed, and I can control the design, and be very fluid with a design rather than having to ship out to other places.